8:19 is the time. I'm Sam Greenfield. This is the morning show at 1160 WVNJ. We'll be with you till 9 o'clock, and the phone number is 1-800-962-1160. Please join me in welcoming from the New Jersey Teachers Association, Educational Association, Barbara Keshishian. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
At first glance, at first blush, the Governor Christie's ideas about cutting seem okay. Pay 1.5% of your health care and accept a wage freeze. But you have other ideas about this. Tell us.
Well, first of all, the governor's cuts in our education funding are just devastating for us. First he took for about $500 million from the current budget and told districts that they had to use excess surplus in order to plug the holes in the current year's budget, and then on top of that he's cutting about $1.3 billion in his proposed budget for next year. So those cuts for our schools are just producing some really devastating effects. And in terms of his plan for the 1.5% of salaries going toward health benefits, we're a collective bargaining state in New Jersey, and we have the right to bargain terms and conditions of employment. And health benefits and salaries are two of those major issues that fall under our collective bargaining laws. So we certainly see that as being, an infringement on collective bargaining. Many of our districts already pay for something toward their health care, and to impose another 1.5% of salary onto paying for health care is, certainly trying to balance the budget on the backs of school employees.
What was you had a complaint in terms of he's asking other people for cuts. I don't have the letter right in front of me, but he's asking other people for cuts, but he's spending money in places he shouldn't. Could you speak to that?
Well, he's forcing those cuts on school employees, and he's not reinstating the tax on what we call here the millionaire's tax, the tax on people who make over $400,000 a year. That tax was allowed to expire, and Governor Christie is refusing to reinstate that tax. That tax being reinstated would pretty much equal the $1 billion that he's proposing for cuts in school funding for the current year. So we feel like he's balancing his budget on the backs of the working class. He's balancing his budget on the backs of the middle class instead of on the people who make a lot more money than school employees do.
In some way, aren't those two separate issues?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure what you mean by that.
In other words, the millionaire's tax, according to what I've read, wealthy people are fleeing New Jersey now in record numbers. If they're taxed more than they are now, will that continue, and that will reduce the tax base, the property tax base, which is in part responsible for school budgets?
Well, we don't see, first of all, the fleeing of the wealthier people from New Jersey in quite the record numbers that the governor's office usually likes to tout. So I'm not sure that will have any great effect on the tax base, and it's certainly inherently unfair to try to make up for that amount of money on the people who make much less money in our school systems. You're talking about the people who work in our cafeterias, the people who drive our school buses, in addition to the teachers and the secretaries that work in the schools themselves.
Hey, Barbara, this is Dave. Here's the question for you. Do you support the wage freeze for the 2010-2011 school year?
Are you talking about the wage freeze for our school employees?
Mm-hmm.
Well, every district has the right to bargain its own contract. So if a district wants to discuss or reopen its contract in terms of talking about a wage freeze, every one of our local districts has the right to do that. Every district bargains its own contract. Do we think that contracts are sacred? Yes, we do. But if a local district wants to reopen a contract, every district has the authority to decide what it's going to do with its own contract.
Given the economic crisis that we're in, and given what's happened to most private sector employees over the past couple of years, do you think that that's a reasonable request for the governor to make? And here's why I asked that question. In the district where I live, there's a $2.7 million budget shortfall because of the cuts coming from Trenton. And the administration in my district said that if the teachers would agree to a wage freeze, that they themselves, the administrators, would also agree to a wage freeze. And that alone, just the wage freeze, would make up 1/3, more than a third, of that budget shortfall for the 2010 school year. So my question back to you is, do you think that is a given, in light of what's going on in the country and the state, do you think that is a reasonable request to make?
Well, we're always compared with the private sector, and that seems to be a very convenient thing to do now at this particular time. But over the years, when the private sector was doing very well, no one ever wanted to compare us with the private sector then. When the private sector was perhaps getting double-digit inflation raises, we were still, groveling and crawling to trying to get what our raises would be during that period of time. So it seems a little ironic that now that the situation has changed, now everybody wants to compare us with the private sector. Over the years, we have paid for our benefits. We don't get any benefits. No one gives us benefits. No one gave us health benefits when we were collectively bargaining contracts. Collective bargaining is a give and take. And when you get a benefit, you pay for it in another area. So over the years, our school employees have paid already for their health benefits by taking less in salary.